Oh, the tangled web, the amazingly intricate world of Nikola Tesla. Go ahead, Don. This is fascinating.
Well, I took notice of how close Nantucket Shoals was to Walker's Point, and of course that's Kennebunkport, Maine, and that's the property that George Herbert Walker had purchased around 1899. In fact, this very time that we're speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
This letter was from the Treasury Department, Office of the Lighthouse Board, and it was signed Francis J. Higginson, Rear Admiral, U.S. Navy. And he requested 8 of these units, and Tesla responded to George Scherf, his assistant. I became interested in why George Scherf was so rarely mentioned in all the writings about Tesla, all the stories.
Mm-hmm.
He comes up in Wardenclyffe, and there are some letters that are available in some of the archives of the records. Some of these records are stored at some universities, and they become very privatized.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes to get to the punchline.
This is a very complex story, but
right.
I'll try to get to the point here.
Thank you.
So, in researching these things and connecting the dots, one of the letters was addressed to the Union Sulphur Company, to George Scherf.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, why the Union Sulphur Company? He works for the Tesla Company in New York, and this was an address in New Jersey. And I looked up more information on Union Sulphur Company, found out that a chemist by the name of Hermann Frosch, he's actually of German descent, German citizen, had developed an extraction method for sulfur and later for oil. And researching 17 Battery Place, the address of the letter in New York City, I found out that that building was owned by Frank Rockefeller, and he actually owned most of the businesses in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And in essence, Scherf was working for Rockefeller. And I started making another connection. You see, this went a little bit further than the union banking people, which was George Herbert Walker, the Brown Harriman Group, and I became a bit concerned that this technology was moving out of the country, and in essence, that's what was happening. I mean, Germany had phenomenal scientific growth during this period, and they were basically using Tesla's technology.
Right.
So the money laundering that went on through Union Banking Corporation went back in terms of technology, and of course they cleaned up the money and they financed the war machine and the Nazi Party through the banks. This came out in 1941 and was halted in 1942.
So again, one more time, the financiers of the Nazi Party were?
Well, we have George Herbert Walker, Union Banking Corporation. He was the director of the bank, the CEO. The Brown Brothers Harriman. We could say safely J.P. Morgan, although he was the banker for the British Crown, more specifically. All these gentlemen controlled the railroads and the tanker vehicles and oil and sulfur and mineral exploration. You know, the weapons that went through Remington Arms, through the War Industries Board, were facilitated by Samuel P. Bush, who was also the head of Buckeye Steel Castings in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
They were making train parts and chassis. You know, it was all connected.
Oh, yeah.
But Tesla's technology was suppressed. The government was paying him to do research in Colorado Springs. They were paying him for this wireless technology. And then in 1904, they announced that they officially put a Marconi system in this facility in Nantucket. But Tesla built the plant. He discusses it in his communications with George Scherf. And I began looking very closely at who George Scherf might be. Now, another interesting fact about one of the bankers, the director of the bank eventually became Prescott Sheldon Bush, the son of Samuel P. Bush. And all of these guys were working together. And I found it hard to understand how George Scherf could have landed such an important job with the Rockefellers, working with Tesla. Tesla was always out of money. Tesla was always in litigation. Tesla's patents were always in dispute, generally with someone across the ocean in Europe. Mm-hmm. And he was like a mad scientist. He was just so much into what he was doing. He assumed that all his affairs were being handled with integrity, when in fact he was being robbed blind, not only of his money, but of his technology. And the credit went many times to Marconi or others. It was suppressed technology, though. Mm-hmm. Now, when he had built the Wardenclyffe Tower, and he was engaged in a conversation with J.P. Morgan about what it was going to do. And he announced that it could provide free electricity to the whole world, free radio, free television, and he was even describing what we now have as the Internet. And Morgan just put a halt to it. He said, I can't make money with that. If I can't make money, right. That's it.
Right.
And so he was discredited as having been a failure when, in essence, the truth was that Morgan had it torn down so that he wouldn't be able to succeed. It would have worked like all his other inventions had. In fact, his inventions had been stolen consistently up to his death. Now, there were some anomalies. I'm writing a piece which I go into great detail about the specifics behind his death, and it wasn't a natural death. And there's the information that's come out in the last 7, 8, even 9 years that shows very strongly that the same people were involved.
And that Tesla was murdered?
Yes.
Poisoned, probably?
No.
How?
No, strangled.
Really?
Yes.
Like Rudolf Hess?
Yes.
In Spandau Prison?
Yes.
Someone just went in and broke his neck,
mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Yes. Now, there's an interesting anomaly. We know from various researchers, and when you connect the dots with their writing, and you have to study it carefully, you can't buy everything that you see right away.
Right.
But there's a certain pattern. On January 4th of 1943, the last visit from George Scherf occurred at the hotel where Tesla was staying.
What year again? 43?
1943.
Right.
And now that date is significant because the next day, the reports are that 2 government agents spent the whole day with him, January 5th of 1943, and it matches some recent revelations of one of the people that made the visit. The 2 people that visited Tesla are very well known internationally, and one is still alive. One died in 1999.
And the one who's still alive knows what happened. Probably.
Oh, yes. And our government knows who both of these people are. They know that they're alive. In fact, they've aided and abetted these individuals in coming into the United States mm-hmm. At the end of the war, mm-hmm. World War II, mm-hmm. we're speaking about. Mm-hmm. Now, according to one of the people that admitted that these 2 individuals committed the murder, mm-hmm. They also admitted that they grilled Tesla for an extended period of time, extracting information about his most advanced technological inventions, and they stole the blueprints for those and forwarded those blueprints to the parties that had been receiving the other technology.
Who were those parties?
I'd like to save that for my story because it...
Well, please do. That's okay. Now, is this coming out in the book form, Don?
Well, I'm doing an article on it right now, mm-hmm. but I should write a book about it. There's a lot of material. There's a lot of dot connections.
Well, please, by all means, let me know when the article's finished. I know we did talk about this before, but I would be honored to post it as a premier featured story at my website.
I'd love to have it on your website. It is fascinating, and it's been a lot of work, putting all this stuff together. And I've done it really by not following, I'm following my intuition. Mm-hmm. I'm taking into account the research that others, and there's lots of very, very good, thorough research out there. find that in terms of things like dates and times and places and certain people, there's a lot of disinformation out there, or there are missing pieces. And so what I try to do is connect them to give the story more continuity and more clarity. And it makes a lot of sense when you read it. It's even difficult to write because it's so complex. These issues crisscross time and time again.
Right.
By design, I might add.
I'm not surprised. These people are pros. I mean, they're as good as they get, and they've been duping and deceiving the world for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And their offspring do it, and the offspring of their offspring do it. It's part of the closed circle. They just they know how to play the game.
That's true. Now, what's interesting is much of this technology is just coming to light or just coming to use now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've studied it, and some of Tesla was pretty smart. He was able to take one invention and divide it into 10. And leave it up to someone who was brilliant to figure out which ones go together. Now, he had over some 700 inventions, so good luck.
700.
Yeah, and those are the ones he was given credit for. Mm-hmm. Now, you can imagine the man probably would have died one of the richest men on the planet, but
even a man who would have died of natural causes, modestly well off in compensation for his incredible contributions.
Sure.
Just a home and a nice acre or two or three, whatever, rather than a hotel.
And he died in abject poverty.
Yeah, he did.
You can imagine that.
Don, thank you. A fascinating conversation. We'll have another in the future if you'd like.
Okay, I look forward to that. Thanks for having me on.
I very much want to see the article, so we'll stand by for that.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, Don. Don Nikola. And remarkable article coming your way soon. All right, we'll pause for 21 hours and be right back tomorrow. See you then.